Hi there folks, it's Zach and welcome back to my level 60 new player help. Here I have my brand new trooper. This is a Commando trooper, and I'm going to show you a little bit today on what his core moves in his rotation. Thankfully, Commandos and what's the other side class? Mercs, the DPS Mercs. They have a very simple rotation in what they give you right off the start, so we won't have to spend a whole lot of time showing all the different moves and talking too much in depth about it. They hit really hard. I'll show you a little bit more. But first up, let me get rid of all this junk of the tutorial mode. I'm going to pause for just a second. When I unpause, I'm going to have changed my HUD. I'm going to have taken it out of tutorial mode, and I'm going to have reconfigured my hotbars, and we'll talk about the moves that are there. Alright guys, so this is the first time I had to do this with this particular class, and all I can say is, holy god, what a mess. Alright, so one of the things I neglected to mention about a Commando is that a Commando comes in 3 different flavors, and this is kind of important when you're setting up your hotbars, is to kind of keep this in mind. They come in Combat Medic, Gunnery, or Assault Specialist. These are 3 very, very different specs. 1 is obviously a healer, 2 are damage, but the way that these 2 deal damage and what moves they use are very, very different. So when you do, decide to jump out of the tutorial, don't be overwhelmed by everything that fills up your screen. Just remember, it's like you can play 2 different roles on this character, so you're going to see a lot of stuff. Even more so than the Jedi Guardian with their tanking abilities. Alright, so let's go over this step by step, and I'll tell you kind of what you should be keeping around. First up, I've got my good old favorite Hammer Shot. Hammer Shot, especially in this particular spec, is just used as a filler. You're not going to need it too often, but like I said with other specs, it is good to have around. This is one of those specs that you can use it on the move, although it's not imperative because there's a bunch of instant casts here that you can use. I just like having it as kind of a safety thing. Alright, next up, you've got Grav Round. Grav Round is very important, just like on my Jedi Guardian, where he has Sundering Strike that debuffs armor. This sucker does the same thing too, and it's a core part of your rotation. On certain procs, it will instantly activate Bolt Storm, which is that's like your highest single damaging move that you have in this spec. So these 2 moves have got to be there somewhere. For sure, you're going to use them. Now, number 3 is Demolition Round, and number 5, High Impact Bolt. Demolition Round only really has impact if your target is affected by Grav Round. So make sure that you're not just popping it willy-nilly. Hit somebody with Grav Round first and then hit Demolition Round, and it does 25% more damage. And that is nothing to sniff at. Bolt Storm speaks for itself. I highly recommend, if it's not preset for you already, you're going to want to make sure you have Forced March as a utility. That lets you use Bolt Storm while you are moving. It's kind of a long channel. It channels for almost 3 whole seconds before you get any alacrity on your gear or anything like that. So you're going to target a dude, you're going to hit Bolt Storm, and you'll be able to move around while it is firing. As long as you keep that target in front of you, it'll fire as you move. It's very handy, especially because you can use that, then pop a Grav Round, and then get the insta-cast Bolt Storm. Alright, so just kind of keep that in mind. Bolt Storm, you can use it on the move as long as you have Forced March, okay? Very important. Otherwise, you have to kind of stand, and 3 seconds is a long time to be standing in one place just firing your best move. It was definitely one of my complaints before 4.0, is that you basically just had to stand there and just kind of keep firing full auto. And that just kind of left you as a sitting duck, and then if you had to move and get out of the way of anything, a huge chunk of your DPS would be lost. So I'm kind of glad they fixed that up. High Impact Bolt, once you have enough of a certain buff on yourself from using Grav Round, that will light up, and that's the time to use High Impact Bolt. It's one of your fillers in this whole adventure, and it'll only light up when somebody's also been affected by Grav Round too, so keep that in mind. Up here I have Pulse Cannon. It's kind of the electricity version of a flamethrower. If you have a bunch of guys in a big cone area in front of you, that's a pretty good one to hit. Does pretty decent amount of damage for the time that it channels without using a whole lot of, power cells. So definitely keep that there. Now this is going to be kind of interesting. I tell you to usually have tenacity, which is this character's stun breaker on the equal sign, but this character gets something special. He gets something called hold the line. Hold the line is one of the best movement negators in the game. It's on a 45-second cooldown, but grants 10 seconds of immunity from all movement impairing effects. That means whatever is coming at you, it just is going to bounce right off. When it comes to like slow, stun, it's awesome. There's also a lot of times where there's a big field area of something bad, and popping hold the line will let you just run right through it at full speed. Also, you can gain more time and more speed for it in your utility branch. I highly recommend it. This is a key thing to all of the different DPS branches for Commando, and even the healing branch. It's very useful. Just keep that in mind. That's why it's on my 7 key. Usually I reserve that for a DPS slot, but honestly, hold the line is good enough to put it there. Next up, you have Supercharged Cell. Very interesting move. It applies to all 3 branches, but the nitty-gritty of it is, as you're using things like Grav Bolt, you're going to be building up Supercharged Cell stacks. Once those stacks hit 10, you can pop Supercharged Cell, and it has an immediate and awesome effect on whatever damage spec you have. For this particular spec, you're going to want to get up to 10 stacks, and then you're going to want to unload with something like a Bolt Storm, Vortex Bolt, Grav Bolt, Bolt Storm combination within that time window. It increases your alacrity during that time. It also increases how hard you hit. It's a very good move. I would have it somewhere very close by that you can pocket, that you can pop it. You can also, if you take the right utility, charge that up in advance. Let's see, which one is it? There we go. Supercharge Reserves. If you take that, that means when you're using your recharge cells, you'll also be building up stacks for Supercharged Cell, and you can start a battle with it. I highly recommend that. Next up, Concussive Charge. That is a knockback, and what's really cool about it is a 360-degree knockback. So just like when I talked about Force Push with the Jedi Guardian, if you are in the right place with a ledge or a cliff or a whatever, what have you, and the guys that you're fighting are not immune to knockback, you can pop that sucker and that'll make them fly right off. The best part about this for the Commando is that it is a 360-degree knockback. So if I'm here and my back is facing the bad guy, I'm fighting one direction and some guy lands behind me, and that happens to be an edge, you can pop that, boom, and he's over that edge and he's toast. Don't even have to turn around to get him. It's very nice. Next up are 2 really interesting cooldowns. Reserve Power Cell, which makes my next ability deplete 0 energy cells. It lasts 15 seconds. And then I've got Tech Override. Your next ability within 15 seconds activates and will activate instantly, so no charge time. So if I'm using something like Grav Bolt and I've popped this first, it'll just fire. No casting time required. Pretty nice. These are very situational, but they're very good situationally. I do recommend using them and using them well. There's whole video guides that will tell you how to work those into your DPS schedule. I'm just going to let you refer to those. What I'm here to tell you is to have them somewhere close by, and so that you do have access to them when you need them, because they are quite good and quite hotbar worthy. The last up is Tenacity. That's your main CC breaker, opposed to Hold the Line. I would let you know about this really fast. Tenacity works while you are stunned. Hold the Line prevents you from being stunned. Okay? There's a big difference. Alright? And I believe it will also, in certain cases, break you out of some CCs, Hold the Line. But some it won't. It's just a preventative. So if you know something bad is coming, or there's a bad field of something in front of you, hitting Hold the Line is probably your best option. If you are caught by something, Tenacity may be your best option. Okay? So keep that in mind, guys. Work those cooldowns. Alright, on my secondary hotbar, I've got Disabling Shot. That is your interrupt. That is a must. I always have my interrupts right on that same key. If you haven't noticed it by now, you're going to notice it by the end. It's always there. Now, Vortex Bolt is a DPS move. It actually hits really hard. It's instant cast. It's on a low cooldown of only 17 seconds. It works in your rotation. And the best part, it makes your next grav round proc and ready to roll instantly. So this is kind of one of those tricky things. Watch some rotation videos, see how that works in, but one thing I want to mention about Vortex Bolt is it's another move that you can be using as you move. Okay? So as I'm running around and I want to hit somebody, I can hit somebody with that, and then it makes Grav Bolt Instacat, so I can hit some guy with that, and then I can follow up with a Bolt Storm combo, all without stopping my feet. Okay? So guys, that's one of the biggest changes between 3.0 and 4.0 is that little setup right there, and that is going to save you some real aggravation, some real grief with this character, okay? So when you look at my sniper or my gunslingers, where they have to plant in cover for most of their moves, they really can't be moving around pretty much at all as they cast. There's a few things they can do quickly, but the majority of their stuff is channeled and, from cover. This guy in this particular spec can be moving around a heck of a lot more, okay? So that's a major advantage to this class that I want you guys to kind of keep in the back of your brain. All right, next up I have Halo Bolts. Halo Bolts is a great little AoE. It hits pretty hard. Its major advantage is that it's castable on demand, okay, and there's no cooldown for it. It does eat up some energy cells, but there's a lot of times where it's pretty useful. This kind of got better as Plasma Grenade, which is over here to the right, got worse. So Plasma Grenade used to hit really hard, and it used to be something that I would have here on my hotbar. I'd hit these two guys, hit Plasma Grenade, and just watch things burn. Now, that's not so much the case. Plasma Grenade is not useless, it's just better for a different spec. If you ever are in the other spec name, Assault Specialist, I was going to say Pyro, they don't call it that anymore. I still call it Pyro because refers to an old name for it. But if you're ever an Assault Specialist spec, then Plasma Grenade can spread all the dots you put out on targets. So it's actually still pretty useful. It's just not so great for this particular spec, Gunnery. Next up I have Electronet. Very handy little piece of equipment here. Even if your target isn't moving, this still can do a lot of damage. I would recommend using it on cooldown, especially on really tough bad guys that you just don't like. All right, it hits really hard, costs virtually nothing. There's nothing bad about it. Plus, it will also, if I believe, slow down the target that's on. And the target, if they are moving anywhere, it hurts them worse. Okay, so another little tactic I like to do is hit Electronet and then pop a guy back with Concussion Charge. And as he runs back towards me, especially if he's a melee type, then he is taking extra damage from Electronet. Okay, love it, use it, it's wonderful. Reactive Shield. This is a main defensive cooldown for the Commandos. It also is something that the tanks get too. It just blocks 25% damage for 12 seconds. That doesn't sound like a lot, but that actually ends up being quite a bit. 25% for 12 seconds is a really good cooldown. It's on a 2-minute cooldown. Have it somewhere close. Use it when appropriate. It's one of the few that you're going to get as a Mando, so definitely keep that in mind. Next up I have Recharge Cells. Recharge Cells restore some energy back. You can also take some utility points to make it better so that it gives you more energy back. I'm going to tell you, as a Gunnery, I'm never really hurting too much for energy if I'm doing the rotations right. That's one of the great things, but I do like to have it close by. I will say that in the other spec, what did I just call it? Assault Specialist? Innovative Ordnance? What is it called over here? Assault Specialist. When you're an Assault Specialist, if you're popping the wrong thing at the wrong time, you can burn through energy like crazy. And so I just like having this one close by just in case. Next up, I have Sticky Grenade. Sticky Grenade's very, very situational. I have it here in case I also switch over to the other spec. But what it does is it just pops a grenade on a guy, and then when it explodes, it does have a bit of a knockback effect. Okay, so this is situational. This will drive some group nuts, especially if you raid. I like it when I solo, just because it knocks guys down sometimes. You can use it from a distance. Doesn't cost really that much to use. It's situational. I just like having it. You can choose to have it there or not. It's up to you. Next up is a CC. This is Concussive Round. This is a really good CC, guys. This is one you're going to get asked to use in raids a lot, so I do have it on a hotbar. It basically will take a guy out of the action until he gets hit. If you're up against a group of bad guys, and for whatever reason you need to stun one for a while, that's kind of a good option for you. It's kind of like Slice Droid for the gunslingers, except this thing works on pretty much everything. Okay, so take that. All right, these two I kind of keep open for some other things. Usually 9 key is my mount, and this one is for rocket boost. Next up is Mortar Volley, though. You're going to want to have this one. This is a great, great AoE. Unfortunately, it does have kind of a long cooldown, but it does work very, very well. Especially because it can hit up to about 8 guys on a target. So if you have a lot of things rushing at you, or you're in a raid where there's a lot of things grouped up, mortar volley is definitely a great way to go, especially in conjunction with things like pulse cannon and halo bolts. Definitely gives you some good AOE utility on this class. Just be aware, it does eat up a good chunk of energy, and it's on a long cooldown. So, use as appropriate. Next up is recharge and reload. So that covers my 2 hotbars. Let me quickly go over some of the things I have here on the left that are defensives. Usually, like I said, I put defenses over here. Things I use the most are on the top. Things I use the least are usually on the bottom. Adrenaline rush and back to infusion. These 2 are actually interchangeable. You can kind of put these where you feel fit. Back to infusion just gives you a quick heal. Quick and dirty, right on top of you, just for you, but it's on a really short cooldown, and I like having it, man. If you just want to have that even hotkeyed on one of your hotbars, do it. I do that with my Sith Sork all the time, and my Sage. Just having a quick insta-cast heal for just you, it can just help mitigate sometimes. A lot of your mitigation actually can come from healing spec stuff. Alright, Adrenaline Rush. Adrenaline Rush is kind of like focus defense, in the fact that if you're at a low health threshold and you pop this, it will bring you up to a higher health threshold. But you do need to have a very particular health threshold for it, which is about 40%. That's a 20% difference than focus defense was at. Focus defense you can use at 60. This one you use at 40. That's pretty low. But if you know you're about to take a whole ton of damage, or you're already at 40% or lower, use it. All right, you'll get some health back. Next up, I have Field Aid. Field Aid is kind of interesting. I haven't shown a character yet that has something like this. This is a cleanse, okay? So if I have the right kind of effect on me, like an electrical stun, Field Aid I can click that and it just removes it. I can remove up to 2 negative effects, tech or physical, okay? Not mental, tech or physical. Keep that in mind. Sorks and Sages cleanse different stuff than Commandos do, alright? So kind of keep that in mind. It's tech or physical, but as you can see, it's on an extremely short cooldown and pretty handy. So if you're being affected by something and you can't necessarily use tenacity or hold the line, maybe you can cleanse it off yourself and be good. There's a lot of raids too that'll expect you as a Mando to cleanse yourself. Be aware. You've been warned. Okay, Med Shot. Med Shot is a quick little heal. It doesn't cost you anything, which is great. I will actually use this as I run to build up stacks for supercharged gas. Okay. Other than that, I don't really use it very much, but it is kind of handy, like I said, if you haven't taken the utility to just stand, recharge, and reload and build up those stacks that way. Next up is Medical Probe. That's your basic heal. Okay. Nothing fancy, you get more heals. But I do like having here because there's just some times where situationally that works. If I've already blown this, I'm not at a lower health threshold, my companion's doing some great damage, whatever. I mean, it's just there. It's a utility that you can use. You can also use that on companion. Next up, I have Emergency Medical Probe. This is a battle res, guys. So if I'm in combat, I can click on my companion or a fellow player and res them back up. Now, a lot of you say, that's the healer's job. I'm like, it very well could be. But it could also end up being on your head to do as a DPS. Just have it. It's something that you have. Get used to having it. Have it somewhere close. Last up, I have Cryo Grenade. This is actually a really good stun. I would actually even put this maybe on a hotbar if I had room for it. Right now I don't, but just kind of keep that in mind that it'll stun a guy in place and do a little bit of damage. Kind of nice. All right. Also, it works as an interrupt for certain cases. Okay. Good things. Next up, I have Diversion. That is a excuse me, a threat dropper. So if I'm generating a lot of threat and something's running at me, I can use that. Not really applicable outside of a raid. And then I have Stealth Scan, which I never use at all. Yes, you heard me say it. Never use it at all. You can even just rip that off a hotbar. I literally just have it there because it was originally placed there, and I needed somewhere to move it. These 4 guys here, these are situational and mostly for other specs. Explosive Round is an AOE that's available on demand. It's kind of expensive. Doesn't hit super hard, but it hits up to 7 targets, which is not bad. If you have an energy dump situation, you might want to use it. It's actually better for assault specialists because there's certain moves that'll let it proc instantly, and for less cost. So I kind of keep it there for when I'm switching between specs. Charge bolts is exclusively for assault specialists. That's not something you're going to use in this spec at all. Plasma grenade we already talked about, and then stock strike. I don't know, guys. This is actually more of a Vanguard move. It's in here for early levels. You're not really going to need it. It's just kind of a melee hit. It's pretty good, but it's not something you're going to see very often. Last up, my class buffs: fortification, sprint, armor-piercing cell, which is the cell to be in for this particular spec. Plasma cell is the one for assault specialist, and this one is the one if you're healing. That's it, guys. All right, so if you like this video and you feel like this was helpful, go ahead and click like. Again, please use some resources out there to learn rotations and HUD configurations and such. I don't spend a lot of time on it here. I just want you to know the moves that you should have ready and raring to go for your first at bat if you want to just have everything at your disposal. All right. Also, I have a new player referral link down there. So if you ever want to join us in this game, click on the link, and we'll see you in the game. All right, guys, have a great one, and we'll see you next time.